Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and welcome to the Retro Cup. This is a Great League format where Dark, Fairy, and Steel-type Pokemon are banned. And with those bans in place, Dragon-type Pokemon like Hakamo-o can run absolutely rampant. I think Hakamo-o really stands out of a crowded field of dragons in this meta due to the coverage of Brick Break and Rock Tomb. This allows it to stack up debuff after debuff and make life very uncomfortable for opponents. On the team, I'm leading Grumpig with Hakamo-o as the safe switch, and the ever-scary Shadow Annihilate in the back as a closer. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches, and in game number 1, we get the dream lead as Grumpig stares down Shadow Annihilate. Annihilate switches out into Furret, but I have two great responses to Furret in the back, and I decide to send in Hakamo-o. The reason why I'm running Hakamo-o over Como-o is Hakamo-o not only has significantly better stats, but it has better coverage as well courtesy of Rock Tomb. A Como-o, for example, would actually have to put up a shield on this Swift, but Hakamo-o is substantially bulkier, so I can actually no shield withstand the Swift, I can't even get farmed down, and fire off a second Brick Break to take the KO. Down goes Furret, my opponent sends back in the Annihilate, I get 2 Dragon Tails of damage, I send in Grumpig, and in the back, they have Araquanid. This is where the typing on Annihilate will be very, very helpful. This matchup is always a tricky baiting game. Will they full send the Water Pulse? Will they bait with the Bubble Beam? They shield, telegraph in the Bubble Beam, but I think they might full send. So I shield, and unfortunately, I overthought it. They did end up going for the Bubble Beam, and now they've undone the boost from my Rage Fist. I'm just going to keep spamming out Rage Fist. Once I land a Rage Fist, then I should be in an okay position to just let this go. Because even if they Water Pulse, I have a shield and Grumpig. They do Water Pulse, I send in Grumpig, and it's a simultaneous switch, Grumpig into the Shadow Annihilate. But Grumpig is about to absolutely destroy this Annihilate's hopes and dreams. I can get to the double up, but I'm not gonna need it. Look at the Psy Waves go. Grumpig with the full farm down, exiting with back-to-back Shadow Balls. Araquanid knows there's no hope. They no-shield the Shadow Ball, and that's a good game. Hopping into the next match, picking up a pretty nice lead, Grumpig into Altaria. Now, Grumpig into Altaria is a surprisingly okay matchup for Grumpig, because Grumpig paces to Shadow Ball at the same rate they pace to Sky Attack, so that means I'll always have the ability to win the Zero Shield. My opponent actually does shield up the first Shadow Ball, so that's okay by me. I'm more than happy to let the Sky Attack go for a second Shadow Ball, and I believe my opponent did CMP time me. The faster pacing on Shadow Ball this season paying dividends as I get a shield advantage and big damage. If they undercharge, which they do, I'm pivoting out into Annihilate. My opponent responds with a Gastrodon, and Gastrodon is going to be immediately under threat from big damage from Rage Fist. Rage Fist is going to land a no-shield from Gastrodon, but unfortunately this means Gastrodon is just getting fully farmed down. So I shield up, they bait with the Body Slam, they try and get to a second Body Slam, but they cannot get there. Back in comes Altaria, and I may as well fire off the Rage Fist. I'm so boosted. I'm now going to be double boosted. They shield up. Can I get the counter down? Yes, I can. Annihilate exits with the Rage Fist. In the back is Licky Licky. And we just absolutely crush this thing with Hakamo-o. In comes Hakamo-o. Opponent sees the writing on the wall and concedes the match. We get a very nice lead in the next match, leading Grumpig into Magcargo. My entire team can hit big super effective damage into Magcargo, so this is a Pokemon I'm very happy to see. However, Magcargo can oftentimes have flyers in the back, so being able to bait out a flyer with Hakamo-o could be quite nice. I safe switch into Hakamo-o, my opponent stays in to debuff me with Rock Tomb, and then they bring in their own Hakamo-o. So, not the flyer that I was expecting to bait out and punish with Rock Tomb, but this can still work. I'm able to apply a debuff with Brick Break. Unfortunately, my Hakamo-o is not a CMP winner, unlike my Annihilate, so I will lose CMP, but this is going to set up a monster farm down for the Grumpig. Grumpig is going to be debuffed by Rock Tomb, because again, Hakamo-o's coverage is just incredibly good, but I get so much of an energy head start. Back in comes Magcargo. Magcargo immediately going to be met with Dynamic Punch. This is debuffed, but Dynamic Punch is a very efficient attack. The shield comes up, in comes Annihilate, and I catch the Rock Tomb. I'm now going to be debuffed, but Annihilate, when debuffed, is still a very scary Pokemon. And they have Como-o in the back, so they're running kind of an ABB strategy with Hakamo-o and Como-o. Unfortunately, Como-o gets erased by an Ice Punch, and up a shield, Grumpig cannot lose, so my opponent will concede the match. We pick up a pretty nice lead in the next match, Grumpig into Aurorus. My entire team can deal with Aurorus. Aurorus farms up, tries for a Dynamic Punch catch onto Dartrix, but I'm able to hold on to my energy and unleash Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball into the Dartrix does land. That's big damage, and considering what I have in the back, it is very, very important that I get rid of this Dartrix. Dynamic Punch bait is successful, able to grab the shield, and Seed Bomb doesn't hit very hard. I think I can no shield and survive. They go for the Seed Bomb, and I make the last second Dynamic Punch on 1 HP. I was 2 off, the Peck did not take the knockout, and just like that, I forced both shields. I'm going to go for energy on Annihilate, as Annihilate's energy is incredibly strong. They full set the Brave Bird on Dartrix, they reveal their final Pokemon in the back is Fearow, and this game could actually get a little bit tricky. There's definitely a chance that Aurorus could reverse sweep this, as Aurorus did exit with a bunch of banked energy. Annihilate will be able to take the knockout with the Ice Punch, but this is going to be very close. My opponent sends in the Dartrix. They do get 1 turn, so unfortunately they do not get their Peck, and now they fire off energy with Aurorus. Aurorus' Weather Ball lands, Annihilate barely able to hang on, but my opponent cannot get to the double Weather Ball that they need to win the game, and Brick Break hits for double super effective damage. Weather Ball lands, Hakamo-O survives, and Brick Break, it's going to do way more than the HP they have remaining here. Brick Break lands, down goes Aurorus, and we're able to take that win. Grumpig into Satitan in the next match. So, really nice having a team that has 3 Pokemon with fighting coverage, because there's a lot of Pokemon weak to fighting in this meta. Satitan gonna stay in, fire off the Icicle Spear, and I'm going to immediately return fire with Dynamic Punch. Dynamic Punch into Satitan is gonna land, Satitan gets rocked. My opponent safe switches into their own Grumpig, and this is a problem. I am very weak to Grumpig in the back. I have 2 fighters, and my Grumpig is low. I bait with Dynamic Punch, hoping that by saving a little bit of energy, maybe I can reach a move endgame. I'm forced to send in Hakamo-O because Hakamo-O is quite a bit bulkier than my Annihilate. And this is where Rock Tomb can be clutch, because Rock Tomb lets me hit for neutral damage, and it allows me to debuff these problematic Psywaves. Since they're debuffed, I'm going to go for a no shield here. I'm saving the shield for Annihilate. Dynamic Punch is going to land. Hakamo gets farmed down. I do not make the Brick Break, and this is going to be a tricky game. I send in Grumpig. They reveal their final Pokemon in the back is Araquanid, and this could potentially be winnable. My opponent just fires off the Bubble Beam. They want to apply that debuff as soon as they possibly can. I'll immediately undo the debuff with the Rage Fist, but Rage Fist at -1 onto a very bulky Araquanid is just really not going to hit that hard. But now I should be in the driver's seat of this game because I can overfarm massively. This game is going to come down to my opponent needing a catch to win. They go for the Water Pulse, I put up the shield, I farm up to the back-to-back Rage Fist, and now my opponent has a really tough call to make. I get the farm down, I exit with the Rage Fist, they bring in the Grumpig, I go for the Rage Fist, and they catch on Satitan. I thought they would predict that I would overfarm, but they did not, and that's going to win them this game, as they fire off Dynamic Punch, and unfortunately, they have enough residual energy here. I try and make Dynamic, and I'm outpaced by a single Psywave. Incredible energy management from my opponent. What a sensational catch, and that's going to get them the win. We see a familiar lead in the next match, but it's a welcome lead. Grumpig into Altaria. We've seen this matchup play out, and it's a pretty nice matchup for the Grumpig. My only worry as Grumpig is if they ever have a normal type in the back that instead of CMP tying the second one, they can catch the Shadow Ball on, that would make life a little bit tricky. But I have 2 fighters in the back, so if that happens, I will lose 50 energy, but my fighters can probably ramp up. Here, my opponent plays to the CMP tie. Grumpig's new pacing is diabolical, and I just immediately pivot out into Hakamo-O. Froslass is not what I was hoping to see. However, Hakamo-O can still make life uncomfortable here. Froslass will go for the Avalanche. I build up to the Rock Tomb, but I'm going for the Brick Break. I just want to ramp up my fast move pressure. The Brick Break bait gets shielded, and I immediately go for my second Brick Break. This is resisted, so it's not going to do a lot, but I just need damage on this Froslass because Froslass absolutely shreds my backline. They pivot out, saving a move. In the back is Lapras, and I'm able to make a last-second Brick Break. That lands, that's big damage, and I know that Froslass can just knock out the Annihilate, so I'm going to be no shielding as Lapras goes for the Sparkling Aria. Lapras is going to get countered down by the Annihilate. I leave with the Rage Fist, but I think the counter damage is more valuable. I'm going to try and farm everything down. However, my opponent should be 2 away from the back-to-back Avalanches. If I can't Psywave down with Grumpig, this game could come down to a catch. My Hakamo-O in the back is very, very low. I'm going to throw 4 Psywaves, switch into the Hakamo-O, and secure the win with a game-winning catch. I couldn't quite get the farm down, but with the catch, Grumpig will get to Psywave down everything and secure the win. Grumpig into Magcargo in the next match. A familiar lead and a lead we're very happy to see because, again, this entire team has fighting coverage. So if you're running into Pokemon that are weak to fighting, then alignment doesn't really matter nearly as much because everything can be threatening. My opponent actually ends up under-tapping. I'm going to call that it is just the Rock Tomb, and it is. And now with the shield advantage, in comes Hakamo-o. My opponent, they're staying into Rock Tomb. That's okay by me. 3 then 2, this can't even be the overheat. It's just the Rock Tomb. They Rock Tomb, they send in their own Hakamo-o, and it looks like Magcargo plus Hakamo-o appears to be a bit of a common duo as this is our second time seeing it. With me being debuffed, I can't do a ton of damage here, but I'll keep spamming out these Brick Breaks, trying to make life as uncomfortable as possible for my opponent. But the good news is, with the Brick Break debuffs, I almost farm them down, and that forces my opponent to fire off some energy. Brick Break will take the KO, in comes Annihilate, they wait 2 turns to make sure that I don't end up doing a Peekaboo catch, but the only energy they have there is a Brick Break. In the back, they have Como-o, and this is where things could get a little bit scary because I am debuffed. I fire off the Rage Fist, they put up the shield, but I can't stay in this matchup while debuffed, so I end up switching into the Grumpig as they fire off the upper hand. But then I make a catastrophic mistake. I need to shield something, because if I don't, I might just get fast moved down. That's a huge error by me, and that could cost me. My opponent fires off the upper hand, they're just fishing for debuffs at this point, they do not get it. In comes Magcargo, and Magcargo will immediately be met with the Rage Fist. Rage Fist is going to land, Magcargo gets countered down, and it looks like I'm healthy enough to farm down the Como-o, and thankfully, we're still able to get that win. Grumpig into Magcargo once again. The Magcargos were out today, but this is not an Incinerate Magcargo, it is Rock Throw. My opponent safe switches into Charjabug, and Trainer, I am so sorry, because this is one of the hardest counters to Charjabug in the entire game in Hakamo-o. We wall off X-Scissor, we wall off Crunch, we wall off Discharge. There's no move that Charjabug can learn that would even allow it to do any kind of damage to Hakamo-o. I fire off the Rock Tomb, debuffing their already pathetic damage, and get a full farm down. My opponent sends back in Magcargo, and I'm more than happy just to fire off the Brick Break. This is a Rock Throw Magcargo, so they're really not going to do a lot of damage. Brick Break destroys Magcargo, and Magcargo is forced to fire off the Rock Tomb to take the KO. The Rock Tomb finally KOs Magcargo in the back. Oh my goodness, that is not what I was expecting to see. It is Galvantula in the back. Galvantula gonna get absolutely shredded by Rage Fist. Rage Fist does get shielded, and look at the counter damage go. That is resisted counter damage. I CMP tie as they double up. My opponent has to predict me going for a snipe here with the Grumpig. So my plan is just to throw 1 counter, and then if they start the Volt Switch, I'll go for the snipe. They predict the snipe, I just stay in, and I can always no shield. They did go for the lunge, anticipating the snipe, but now I can just bring back in the Grumpig. Grumpig has a ton of energy, so we're going to take this game. Dynamic Punch will KO the very low health Galvantula. Back in comes Magcargo, and my opponent will resign the match. We've got a perfect mirror lead, Grumpig into Grumpig in the next match. This is probably one of the most uncomfortable lead matchups. My opponent safe switches into an Ember Turtonator, and I respond with my Hakamo-o. Hakamo-o will take monster damage from Dragon Claw, but I know that I can survive. So, I no shield, I'm very low on health, but I will make it to the Rock Tomb, and Rock Tomb will deliver the KO, winning the switch advantage. My opponent will get a farm down with the Grumpig, and that's always a worry, because Grumpig energy will absolutely flip the mirror, but I had a bunch of residual energy as well. So I bring back in my Grumpig, I'm going for Dynamic Punch, getting a little bit greedy, but greed does pay off. I get the shield, and now I'm a little bit ahead in this mirror match. I shield up, expecting to get baited, but they full send the Shadow Ball. I make the Shadow Ball, they make a catch onto Crustle. Now I have a Pokemon that deletes Crustle in the back in Annihilate, so I switch in the Annihilate, and the moment I do, I realize that I have just thrown this game. I needed to rebank energy on the Grumpig and then bring in the Annihilate, because Rock Wrecker is going to do huge damage. Even with me stopping tapping to limit the farm, my opponent's just going to shield, Psywave me all the way down, and with this energy head start, they're going to get to the back-to-back Shadow Balls. So unfortunately, this was a very winnable game, but my opponent just managed their energy better than I did. If I refarmed energy on Grumpig before switching in the Annihilate, to me, it's a pretty straightforward win, but unfortunately, I did not. I got too excited. I saw the Crustle, I was like, yo, I wall this. I sent it Annihilate, and unfortunately, that costed me everything. Hopping into the final match, leading Grumpig into Furret. Now this matchup, I have two better answers in the back, but I like to stay in and dynamic punch to force a shield. And then once I have a shield advantage, it's Hakamo time. Hakamo hits the field. Oh my goodness, did I just catch a Trailblaze? If I caught a Trailblaze, I'm very far ahead, and I did catch a Trailblaze. Furret is going to look to farm up, and they make a very nice catch, catching Brick Break onto their own Hakamo. Brick Break, we finally get to see what it looks like when it's not debuffed, because most of the time, my opponents were switching in Hakamos after I had been Rock Tomb debuffed. They go for the Brick Break, it misses the knockout, and I will get a second Brick Break. This is great news for me. I really don't want to concede a farm down, so I'm just going to look to pivot into the Annihilate. They bring in the Furret, and I think this isn't enough for a Trailblaze. So I no shield, it is the Trailblaze, and that's a huge mistake. I should have always shielded there, but I miscounted. In the back is a Araquanid, and if I don't make a second Rage Fist, then I have just thrown this game. Rage Fist is going to land onto the Araquanid. It's going to be very close. Annihilate barely makes the final Rage Fist, and making that move will win me the game, and it turns out that was actually damage registration error. So if the game worked as intended, my throw should have lost me the game, but I do get a little bit bailed out here towards the end. My team was in a position to win the game, but unfortunately, I did not execute it well enough. I reset the debuff from the Bubble Beam, I bring back in the Grumpig. Grumpig's Shadow Ball will just do too much damage to the Araquanid. I'll be able to shield and farm down, but this was a very straightforward game. If I don't miscount, I could just shield the Annihilate, farm down, and then Annihilate basically just sweeps the Araquanid. But my miscount made things a lot more difficult, and unfortunately for me, should have lost me the game, but due to a game inconsistency, we're still able to get that win. All in all, I think this team is very, very strong. Part of what makes this team incredibly strong is the fact that both Hakamo and Annihilate can core break the duo of Furret plus Araquanid, which appears to be a pretty common duo so far. I would say that's a definite strength of the team, is if you're running into teams like that, this team does a very good job of just absolutely steamrollering them. I will say a weaker spot to this team is the fact that it's double weak to Psywave in the back. So if you end up running into a lot of double Psychic teams, then this team could have more of a difficult time. I didn't end up seeing a lot of Oranguru today, which was a bit of a surprise. Oranguru was pretty common day 1, but it feels like people were kind of shifting more away from Oranguru on day number 2. So overall, that ended up working out pretty nicely for me, as without running into double Psychic teams all the time, this team was absolutely shredding. And I think double Psychic and Oranguru as a whole getting reduced a lot makes a bit of sense because of how popular Araquanid is. And Araquanid is really, really tough for the Psychic types because it is just insanely bulky. It absorbs neutral hit after neutral hit. It can kind of just debuff you into oblivion. So I think this team is well positioned to take advantage of that huge surge in Araquanid, that meta trend, because Araquanid doesn't really have anywhere it can go against this backline. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoy watching content like this, please do consider leaving a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And an extra special thank you as always to our channel members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is genuinely so appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.